You don't usually imagine yourself on the stone. You imagine the crowd, the drums, the priests, the
El
spectacle.
cielo
History
es
teaches it from a
azul.
distance, safely framed as ritual and myth. But if you move the camera closer, uncomfortably close, and place yourself inside the body of the person chosen, everything changes. Being an Aztec sacrifice victim didn't just suck because you were going to die. It sucked because your death began long before the knife ever touched your chest. You might have been captured in war, dragged hundreds of miles from your home, watching the landscape slowly become unfamiliar. Or you might have been chosen from within your own city, selected because you were strong, healthy, beautiful, or symbolically perfect. That part matters. You weren't sacrificed because you were worthless. You were sacrificed because you were valuable. And psychologically, that's a different kind of horror. You weren't being erased. You were being used. From the moment you were chosen, your identity changed. You stopped being a person and became a role. The future you imagined, children, aging, ordinary suffering, elapsed into a single day. Modern psychology calls this anticipatory trauma, the suffering that comes not from pain itself, but from knowing it's coming and being unable to stop it. Your nervous system would have been locked in a prolonged stress response, your body waking every day with the same knowledge. This ends on the temple steps. What makes this especially disturbing is that everyone around you believed this was necessary, not optional, necessary. The Aztec worldview wasn't cruel for cruelty's sake. It was built on cosmic fear. The sun needed blood to rise. The gods required hearts to keep the universe from collapsing. If sacrifices stopped, reality itself might end. That belief system placed the weight of existence on your chest long before your heart was removed from it. And here's the psychological paradox. In many cases, you were treated well, fed properly, given ritual honor, dressed beautifully, sometimes even celebrated. That kindness didn't soften the terror, it sharpened it. Your brain struggles most when care and threat exist at the same time. Neuroscience shows that mixed signals create deeper stress than pure violence. You weren't allowed to hate your captors because they weren't acting like monsters. They smiled. They reassured you. They told you your death mattered. Imagine carrying that contradiction inside you, knowing people see you as sacred while your body screams for survival. Every instinct telling you to run, while every social force tells you to submit. The human brain is wired to obey the group to stay alive. But here, obedience was the path to death. That kind of psychological bind fractures the self. You either resist and become chaos, or you accept and slowly disappear from the inside. Religion amplified everything. This wasn't an execution in secret. It was a public, ritualized event. Drums echoed through the city. The smell of incense mixed with blood. Thousands watched. Social neuroscience tells us that being observed intensifies emotional experience. Shame, fear, and helplessness multiply when witnessed. You weren't just dying. You were being seen dying. Your last moments weren't private. They were instructional. The physical pain, horrific as it was, wasn't even the worst part. Pain is sharp and finite. Meaning is heavier. As you climbed the steps, step after step, your body already exhausted, your mind would have been racing through memories, faces, voices, moments you didn't know were your last when they happened. The brain releases massive amounts of adrenaline under extreme threat, distorting time, seconds, stretch, sensations, sharpen. You are fully, unbearably alive right before you are destroyed. And when the priest raised the blade, it wasn't done in hatred. That's the detail that unsettles modern minds the most. This wasn't rage, it was procedure, precision, reverence. Your heart wasn't taken as punishment. It was offered as fuel. You weren't an enemy in that moment. You were a resource. There's a concept in psychology called depersonalization, where a person feels detached from their body or reality during extreme stress. Many sacrifice victims likely experienced this. A floating sensation, emotional numbness, a narrowing of awareness. The mind's last defense against unbearable reality is to step away from it. That doesn't mean peace. It means distance, survival without escape. And afterward, your body didn't belong to you either. Parts were used in ritual, sometimes consumed, sometimes displayed. Your death didn't end the process, it completed it. Identity dissolved completely. You didn't get a grave, you became an event. What makes all of this especially tragic is that in many cases, resistance would have been seen as meaningless. You weren't fighting injustice as the culture defined it. You were fighting gravity. Everyone believed this was how the world stayed alive. Even the people who loved you might have accepted it. That kind of existential loneliness, the feeling that no one is truly on your side, is one of the deepest forms of psychological pain humans can experience. So yes, it sucked to be an Aztec sacrifice victim. Not because the culture was uniquely barbaric, but because it reveals something uncomfortable about humanity. Societies can normalize almost anything when fear is large enough and meaning is attached to suffering. When survival of the group is placed above the individual, empathy becomes selective. Ritual makes horror feel righteous. And here's where the story stops being ancient history. Because the mechanism hasn't disappeared, We still sacrifice people, just differently. We sacrifice them to systems, expectations, ideologies, productivity, reputation. We praise their meaning while ignoring their pain. We tell them it's necessary. We tell them it's honorable. We tell them the world depends on it. So when you picture that stone altar, don't just see the past. Ask yourself something quieter and more unsettling. Where do we still convince people that their suffering is required? And how often do we accept that story? Because challenging it would mean questioning the world we depend on to keep the sun rising.